study says Trump's proposed time limit for low-income housing could hit working families hardest. So here's what's new. A fresh NYU study, shared with the AP, says a 2-year time limit on public housing Section 8 vouchers, floated under the Trump admin, could put more than 1 million low-income households at risk of losing their homes. Most are working families with kids. Let me break that down. Researchers dug through a decade of HUD data. Nearly 4.9 million households. About 2.1 million households include at least one adult who isn't elderly or disabled. That's the group that could face the clock. Roughly 70% of those families have been on assistance 2 or more years. HUD's argument: time limits push self-sufficiency. Time limits also aim to cut waste and fraud. A spokesperson says long-term assistance can discourage able-bodied people from working. Elderly and disabled folks would be exempt, but there's little guidance on how elderly is defined, little guidance on how disabled is defined, or on when the clock starts and how it would be enforced. The NYU team raises big practical flags. If a hard 2-year cap hits all at once, housing authorities could face mass evictions, high administrative costs, and a scramble to find new tenants during an affordable housing and homelessness crisis. And the human side is stark. Housing stability links to kids' health, schooling, and long-term earnings. Think of a single mom near Seattle paying 30% of her income for a modest 2-bedroom. If her teen has autism but doesn't fit HUD's disability definition, the clock could still run out. What about real-world tests? Out of 17 housing authorities that tried time limits, 11 ended them. None used 2 years. I'm sure you've heard the news. Affordable housing is in crisis. That means opportunity for smart investors. Here's how to tap it. Problem: traditional rentals can be hit or miss. Vacancies, late payers, turnover. They kill returns. Plan: lease to Section 8 tenants. Guaranteed government portion of rent. Longer tenancies. Steady demand. Do it right. Screen tenants. Pass inspections. Price competitively for local voucher rates. Proof: many investors report lower vacancy and steady cash flow once properties meet standards and build a reputation. Quick tip: start with 1 unit. Learn inspections. Then scale. Want a checklist to get started? Follow for that. Think Section 8 is a hassle? Stick with me. It might be your most reliable rent check. Section 8 splits rent 2 ways. The tenant pays roughly 30% of their income. The local PHA pays the rest directly to you. To get started, contact your PHA. Submit a request for tenancy approval, pass an HQS inspection, sign the HAP contract and the lease. Then the PHA deposits their share monthly. Pros: predictable payments. Lower vacancies, longer tenancies, inspections, paperwork. Rent increases, need PHA approval. Screen tenants the same way you would. Stay on top of maintenance. Build a good relationship with your PHA for faster approvals. Section 8 updates for 2026 are here. First, the program is still operating. If you have a voucher, you're still getting assistance, but budgets are tight. A house funding bill could mean fewer new vouchers. Because of this, many housing agencies are updating payment standards to reflect higher rents, so watch for local announcements. SHUDI also proposed an option for work requirements or time limits. This is not universal. It's optional for housing agencies, so check your local notices. Emergency housing vouchers are winding down, with funding ending by late 2026. If you're on an EHV, ask your housing authority now about transitioning to a standard voucher. For evictions, state rules still control most timelines. If you get a notice, call legal aid immediately. Stay plugged in, read every notice, and act early to protect your housing. Can a landlord evict a Section 8 tenant? Understand the distinct legal framework for evicting a Section 8 tenant, which involves satisfying both federal housing regulations and local laws. Yes, a landlord can evict a Section 8 tenant, but the process involves federal regulations and oversight from the local public housing authority, or PHA. This ensures evictions are for legitimate reasons. Evicting a Section 8 tenant requires good cause. This means you can't simply choose not to renew a lease without a valid reason. Grounds for eviction include serious or repeated lease violations like unauthorized occupants or failing to maintain the property, non-payment of the tenant's portion of the rent, criminal activity by the tenant or their guests that threatens others' health or safety, significant property damage beyond normal wear and tear, and other good cause, which covers business reasons like selling the property or moving in yourself. Before filing for eviction, you must provide written notices to both the tenant and the Public Housing Authority, or PHA. The tenant's notice must state the grounds for eviction and the termination date. Notice periods vary by state law and your lease. Crucially, you must also send a copy of this notice to the PHA. Failing to do so can invalidate the entire eviction process, so follow these steps carefully. The Section 8 eviction process. After providing proper notice to the tenant and the Public Housing Authority, the landlord can begin formal legal action. This starts by filing an eviction complaint with the local court. At the hearing, the landlord must prove the lease violation and show that both the tenant and PHA were properly notified. If the judge rules in the landlord's favor, a judgment for possession is granted. Should the tenant not vacate, the landlord can obtain a writ of possession, authorizing law enforcement to legally remove the tenant and their belongings.